53 podcast. We are back. This is the last episode. It's a two-part episode tonight, but the last episode before the 2021 season officially kicks off on Thursday. We got the Cowboys versus the Bucks. I'm super excited. We know Jason's excited. He ends every single podcast saying that he's excited for football season. We are here. We are going to do predictions for the season. So this is our pre-season predictions. We're going to go through every conference, or both conferences, every division, rank all the teams, and then get into some season awards, Super Bowl champ, MVP, yada, yada. Excited to break it down for you. Jason, my counterpart here, is going to help us out too. How are we doing, Jace?
We are great. We are 47 and a half hours away from season kickoff. I'm not going to say excited, but I am giddy as a schoolgirl. Let's go.
All right, dude. Let's get it. So right now on screen, Jason, we have the NFC North, East, South, and West. So I think we're going to start with the NFC North. We are both fans of the NFC North. I'm a Minnesota Viking fan. Jason, as you can see by his background and his hat, is a Chicago Bears fan. We're going to go 4-1 as best we can. I think there's going to be arguments along the way, probably starting in the NFC North here. But 4, I think, is one that we can both get aligned on.
Yeah, they're going to be continuing to bite kneecaps there for them Lions. They're going to be from the down working their way up. If they get 5 wins, I'd be shocked this year.
Hey, 5 wins, Jared Goff, who knows, Tyrell Williams, whatever. 3, Jason, and this is kind of crazy because the NFC North, I think, is a packed top, depending on how you look at the teams. You're not going to like it, but I'm putting the Bears here.
Yeah, I am too.
Oh, all right.
Only because they're going to start Andy Dalton for more games than the fan base wants to. I think Justin Fields is going to win us some games this year. But as I've been saying all offseason, I think he should be sitting, learning, growing because this is like a lost season. But you see some of the things the front office is doing. They're backloading some contracts. So now they're basically hedging the future for now by spending a lot of cap money into the future. So I don't get what's going on there. Anyway, Dalton keeps playing and they're not going to win many games.
It's pretty interesting saying it's a lost season when you guys made the playoffs last year. You're such a pessimistic fan base that making the playoffs the year prior, and this is a giveaway season. But I digress. Let's get into number 2. I think this is very easily a playoff team sitting at the number 2 spot in the NFC North. I'm actually going to go with the Minnesota Vikings here. I still think the Packers, the way Aaron Rodgers finished out last season, is the team to beat, and I'm not going to make that change until I see it. So I'm going Vikings.
Agreed. I think it's going to be close between 2 and 3, honestly, but I think the Vikings will have it.
And then Packers would go number 1. Do you think Packers are the number 1 ranked team in the NFC currently, or do you see other teams, maybe somebody like the Rams, Seahawks, in that position? I feel like the Packers are pretty and Bucks, I'm sorry. But the Packers are pretty firmly either 1 or 2 in the North. In the NFC.
Yeah, I think it goes Bucks, Packers, and then somebody from the West.
Cool. We'll talk about the Bucks. No, we're not doing that. We're going East. You mixed up the order on me, and I'm all flustered.
You even hit me pre-show with the never eat soggy Wheaties thing, so come on now.
Well, I didn't want to do it. I'm just saying that's how people say it. Anyway.
My brain couldn't function going west, south, north, east. I just, there's a little bit of my OCD just wouldn't allow it.
But now,
so we went and talked to the black and blue division. Let's talk about the East. It's probably going to be equally black and blue, but do you see a lot of improvement starting this one off from last year?
I actually do, Jason, but I don't think enough improvement to see like 2 playoff teams out of here. No chance. Improvement just because Dak Prescott's on the field. Improvement because I think the Eagles at least have some like continuity in knowing who their quarterback's going to be. It helps out a ton. Redskins are going to progress. I like who's under center for them. Second year with their coach, Riverboat Ron, so excited about that. So, yeah, I think there is. But I think the one team that I don't see any progression in is the team we're going to put at 4, and that's the Giants.
Easy peasy. Agreed. I know they're going to get Saquon back, which is going to be big for their offense. They signed Galladay. I just I don't see enough talent anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, and when it comes down to winning big games, I just like the other three teams more in this division. It's not that I have a huge slight against Daniel Jones. I'm happy that he got Galladay in the offseason. That might help too if he's healthy. But the other three teams, I just feel like have a little bit more to offer. So that's the reason. As I go to number three, it's really hard not to say the Eagles here. I think it's just the best quarterbacks rise to the top, the best defenses rise to the top. So I'm going to put Eagles here at three.
Yeah, I don't think they have the best anything. I think they're still lacking playmakers. Hurts, I'm not a huge fan of the style. I mean, it can be fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think I don't think that's the answer. I don't. We'll see about Sirianni because he was the OC there in Indianapolis under Frank Reich and had some good results. But I just, watching a couple of his pressers, it just, is he really a leader of men and a mastermind and all that you typically want to see out of a first year young guy coach?
Yeah. So the question here is, Jason, as everybody knows, the listeners of the 53 know that I'm a Cowboys fan, purely based on my love for Dak Prescott and their ability to win this shitty division. So as you know, I want to put the Cowboys number one. I think they're winning the East. I know you want to put the Redskins number one. Excuse me, the Washington football team. I should change that on this graphic before I put it up on the screen. Can you
Are
debate
they
me
going to
real
get a new
quick?
name before the season? Or is it next year?
Dude, they might not give him a name.
And that by default is giving them the name, I guess, right?
Dude, I don't know why you wouldn't keep Washington football team. I think it's cool. I know everybody else doesn't, but they do it in soccer all the time. Why can't you do it in American football?
Right? I don't know. Well, I want to root for Rivera. I like defense with Washington. They made the playoffs last year. Dak, you got the whole thing, high flying offense. Most of their line is back. Minimal defense. They signed or they drafted Micah Parsons, which could be fun. I mean, to me, I'm definitely, you're right. I'm still sticking with Washington. My biggest question is how do we settle this?
I, 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 I guess when it
Let's
comes
flip
down to
something. You got a coin?
no, when it comes down to division winner, I really should give it to the person who won the division the year prior. But in this case, there hasn't been back-to-back division winners in like 15 years. So,
Mm, that's a good point because even though the years where they were good, it was alternating because you had the Cowboys from the playoffs and you had the Giants with Eli was there. You're so right, and then Eagles with Wentz. They were having it back when Washington was the lowest there. So
so I feel
ah,
like the Cowboys should be in there just because of that, just because we know the turnover in this division.
they're gonna choke so hard. It's what they do.
No, 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 no.
All right, I'll give it to you.
Yes,
I expect some leniency in our next debate, though.
yes, yes. Well,
I don't know which one I'm gonna hang my hat on. We're probably gonna have to take that one to the West, where we're gonna get fighting about it again.
I think the South is really kind of confusing now. Drew Brees is gone, and it feels like the Saints just fallen off the map, which I don't think is fair to the Saints. And we'll get into it when we go through these. The Saints were a playoff team when Drew Brees was hurt. The Saints were a playoff team when Drew Brees was throwing 4-yard passes. Now they have a better quarterback athletically. I don't think they regress that much. Like, yes, Drew Brees is a better quarterback as a player of the position, but Jameis Winston athletically is 10 times better of a quarterback than Drew Brees. So what does that mean for this offense? What does it mean for the Saints? Big question mark going into the NFC South. But let's get to our fourth team, which I think it all adds up to the Atlanta Falcons.
Amen to that. I know they got the new coach, the former Titans OC Arthur Smith. Should be a fun revitalize of the offense there, but yeah, no debate. No defense, no win.
Talking about a team that's just like mailing it in and waiting for something to happen. Like, what is the future for the Atlanta Falcons? We don't see it. What do you build your team around? We don't see it. Kelvin Ridley, I guess. Matt Ryan is on his final leg. So, Atlanta Falcons, sadly, you might be last in the division, and you don't really have much promise for the future.
Really for a while, to be honest. Based off what you just said, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't really have any offensive weapons. You have Ridley and maybe Pitts if he pans out. Your defense is not good. You've had a bunch of high picks recently, and they're not quite. I don't want to say they're bust, but they're not developing as fast as you'd want. Plus, you're also in one of the tougher divisions now, and you're definitely not going while Brady's there. So yeah, Falcons at 4. Let's get into that Saints Panthers debate here for 3-2,
Yep.
because I think there's a lot to it. The one thing you're talking about the Saints precursor here with Jameis, I mean, the one thing we haven't seen in a while, we've seen some home run plays out of the Saints, but not many were deep balls. I know that's one thing that Jameis was known for with the Bucs, throwing up a lot of 50-50 balls. Granted, he had Mike Evans, and the Saints don't quite have that guy. But you figure throwing it up is going to be a lot of fun, but it could also be a lot of headaches that we're used to. What do you think?
Hey, dude, I like Marquez Callaway. That's been my dude in my fantasy drafts. Alvin Kamara, people don't sleep on that guy just because they have a new quarterback. I think he is more valuable than ever, and he can really lead this offense regardless. And then I'm not really worried about Jameis. I'm a fan of Jameis. I think Sean Payton is a perfect coach to coach him, to really limit those turnovers. That's the only negative part of his game. Like, he plays the position pretty well, I think, and I think he can win games. So I like the Saints. They were a 12-win team last year, and the only big difference, and Trey Hendrickson went to the Bengals, but the only big difference is Drew Brees, and I don't think it's that big of a regression. I would like to say the Saints would be the second in this division, so I'd like to put the Panthers third.
Let's talk about the Panthers before we finalize, because that's something where, I mean, I like Darnold, and I like the opening up offense with Matt Rule. I like the offensive playmakers there. And last year they spent all of their draft picks on defense. Obviously, they're trying to replace Kuechly, but you liked the safety there, Chin, and your boy Shaq Thompson starting to come into his own from safety to linebacker there.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about the edge rusher being tops in the NFL this year in sacks.
Burns?
Does that add up enough for you to at least move the needle to a conversation point, or is that something you still don't see enough? They're still too young, too new.
No, dude, and it really comes down. I like all the defensive points there, but it really comes down to Sam Darnold. It really comes down to Christian McCaffrey, and can the offense score with the Bucks, and then yeah, put up numbers against the Bucks and compete with them. I don't think they can. Can the Saints? I think they can. That's where I'm at.
Fair enough. And I'm cool with that. The Saints being 2, the Panthers being 3, and that leaves the Bucks for number 1 because they're literally returning all of their starters. And they literally got to just draft for fun this year. They got to draft for depth and guys that they liked and just like get their guys type of thing. So that is the penultimate version of having power in the NFL.
There is something to be said about the Bucks, though. Like, everybody and their mother is just like penciling them in as a 14-win team. Like, I don't know, man. There's something to be said about the Super Bowl hangover, and I know it's Tom Brady, and he's done it 6 times now. But that whole team has to play to that level. Very tough. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a pretty big regression in the regular season, at least. And I mean, they only won 11. I shouldn't say only, but they won 11 games last year. It's not like they were winning 14 games like the Chiefs were or something. So I don't know. They could. They could
I
be
see
a
where your gut's
9-10
going
win
with
team.
that. I mean, yeah. So I think if there's going to be a set of failure, it's going to be injury or it's going to be lack of defense. I mean, the defense is flying around pretty good, but they're getting a little bit older. They got some young defensive backs, but I mean, they have one of the best offensive lines. They're going to have Chris Godwin to start the season, which they had him all banged up last year. Antonio Brown will have been there for an off season and some games. You're going to get OJ Howard back, I believe. Gronk will probably be in shape. You're going to have just too many weapons. You got 2 running backs, well, 3 now with Giovanni Bernard. I mean, there's just depth everywhere. So I got to imagine that injury is not going to take down the offense as much as it would the defense if that was to plague them this year.
No, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it's a safe bet to say the Bucks are going to be in the playoffs, of course. But Talk about the playoffs. I think the NFC West might be the toughest division, one to win and then two to like post a pretty good record in even. Just because you're playing 6 tough games within your division before you even go interdivision or interconference. So it's even hard to place a fourth team right now in my head. So I'm going to ask you, Jason, who's your 4 in the West?
It's going to be Cardinals.
Really, it's that
Sorry, I
easy
don't
for
want
you?
it to be, but it's going to be.
I disagree. I think it's the Niners. I don't understand why the Niners get such good publicity just because they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I understand they had like 31 injuries last year, and everyone's like, "Well, they were injured. That's why." Yada yada. I was like, "Well, Richard Sherman's not there anymore. I think he was a vital part of that defense." Question mark at the quarterback position. Receivers, cool, whatever, but like I feel like they're very gimmicky to get the ball moving down the field. Their rushing attack was amazing the year they went to the Super Bowl. It regressed last year. They don't have as many weapons in the backfield. This Trey Sermon guy as the RB2 is a question mark. We don't know. Mostert's gotten hurt the last 2 years. I see that all happening again, and I don't think the Niners are going to live up to a 500 record, let alone a playoff record.
Sub 500. I mean, somebody's got to be that in the division. You're not all going to be above 500. I get that, but um, yeah, injuries kill, man. I have a little bit of faith in them. I think the coaching's too good. And you think about some of the players that were done for the year, they weren't just role guys. These were their guys. You lost Kittle, you lost Bosa, you lost some linemen that were huge. It's going to be interesting. So it's going to be between these two for 3 and 4, in my opinion. I think the Niners have a little bit more toughness and grit and experience than the Cardinals, and that's the reason they haven't fallen off. I know they signed JJ, and I know they got AJ Green from some experience, but I mean, I just don't know.
So the Cardinals,
Something about them, right? Maybe it's the way that they felt like they were so hot to start the year last year, and then they fell from grace, not even making the playoffs, because they were right there neck and neck with the Bears at the end of the year. Maybe that's part of my thing with the Cardinals falling off, but we'll have to see how that goes because I mean, this really is probably, in my opinion, right now this year, I think the NFC West is going to be tougher than the AFC North.
yeah, no, I think you're right. But like the Cardinals were 8-8 last year, and I think they get better than that this year. So that means to me, like, if the Cardinals are at 4, that means every team in the division's over 500. I don't know, but I'll let you win that one. I'm gonna put the Cardinals at 4, Niners at 3, even though I'm almost adamantly against that. But let's go to the top 2 in the division, and I think this is a toss-up as well. I have a pretty firm standing on this one, so I'm gonna ask you first before I chime in.
I've got Rams at 2, Seahawks at 1.
Why is that?
I see I okay. One, I have a loathing of Matt Stafford, but I do think he's a significant upgrade from Goff. But I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of new on offense, but more so on the defensive side. They've lost their safety core. They lost some linebackers, and on top of that, they lost their defensive play caller last year to become the head coach of the Chargers. So that's a lot of change, and that's a lot of production they're asking to replace because that defense has been together for more than a couple years now and growing. Granted, they still have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, obviously. They still have Leonard Floyd, which is, that's kind of a slap in the face. He had over 10 sacks last year. They have a couple of their key role players, yes, but to have the safety guys make up for a lot of wrongs when you got great safety play. Both of them are on different teams. And again, a couple of linebackers missing in the middle. So that it's going to be rocky. I think that the Seahawks, they were good last year without good defense. So you had another year to grow there, and you let Russ cook. I think he's going to play it back.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously tough to bet against Russell Wilson. We've seen that how many times?
Right.
But I like the Rams for the reason of the Rams offense was straight up mediocre last year.
Yep.
And now with just the addition of one person, okay, Cam Akers really hurts, not gonna lie. But the addition of Matthew Stafford, I think, makes them at least a top 10 offense. And then you look at their defense; they allowed the least amount of points in the NFC, and I see that to happen again. So
Really?
I do, at least in the
Even with
NFC.
all that change, personnel wise, coaching, schematically, all that.
Yep. In the NFC, I think they are going to have the most or the least points against, and yeah, it might not even be close, to be honest with you. I think every other team in the NFC doesn't have quality defense, um, and they do, and they're gonna build their whole team around it, their whole aspect around it. So I like the Rams to win this division with like 12 or 13 wins. I like the
Hold on.
Seahawks right below
You
them
don't
with
think there's
12
other
or
teams
11
with
wins.
quality defense in the NFC?
No, your Bears suck.
I'm talking about the Washington football team. I'm talking about the Bucks. I'm talking about the Niners.
Bucks suck. Niners suck.
Really?
Yeah,
Based on what?
based on points per game. Rams don't.
That,
Rams don't let
that's
you
not
score
always that's
touchdowns.
but see that's a bullshit argument just because you have the Bucks right there, points per game. They were up in a lot of those games, especially towards the end of the year. You really are gonna not account for garbage time in some of these?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna say
You
with.
know how this game works. You can't go off of points per game all the time.
I know. That's what I'm saying. The Rams are gonna be better on offense and stay the
I'm
same
not
on
I'm not
defense.
arguing the positioning here of the Rams and Seahawks. I'll give you Rams at one, but I'm not going to give you the statement about no other defenses in the NFC.
Dude, they're not that good.
Who's they? The Niners aren't that good. The Bucks aren't that good. The Washington football team's not that good.
I'm telling you now, the Niners defense is not that good, especially with Sherman gone. They don't have any corners now. The
Jason
Jason
Verrett's
Verrett,
back and healthy. He's proven that. Proven that.
yeah, he came back. That's fine. But you ain't got nobody else on the other side. Richard Sherman makes every team that much better. He ain't there. Team falls apart.
Yeah,
Bucks,
we'll see.
Bucks, maybe, sure. And I mean,
What
they
about
took away.
Washington?
Washington's a flash in the pan. They got a good pass rush. That's about it.
That seemed to do really well for the Rams until they picked up an all-star corner. So
Hey, when you got Jalen Ramsey on your defense, you can do a lot of things.
true.
So I think the Rams win this division.
That's fine. I'm
And
still
you talk
sticking to my
and you
guns.
talk about coaching. Who's got better coaching?
As far as are we talking about the West or are we talking about those defenses?
Well, Rams, Seahawks. I mean, I
Carroll's got a Super Bowl right there.
Carroll's all year last year was actively Pete Carroll wanting to do one thing, the whole fan base and all the players wanting to do another thing, and there was this whole battle of everyone saying let Russ cook, and he's like, no, I'm gonna do it my way, and there's so much friction. Where the Rams, at least, they seem like they're all on the same
Fan
page,
base
trying to
hired to
go
be
out
the
and win.
coach. Did the fan base win a Super Bowl? Did the fan base bring in all these players?
No, the fan base, they won a Super Bowl when they were running the ball.
Right.
They ain't gonna run the ball this year.
Okay.
They should.
I guess I'm not seeing the point. You think the point then is that they should throw the ball more because the fans say so?
No, I think they should. They should do what Pete Carroll says, but they ain't gonna. They're just gonna throw the ball all
Does
over the
that does
field,
that make them
and
more
then
poorly coached? I don't understand your argument here.
and then exactly what happened in the playoffs when these two teams met. The Rams shut them the fuck down.
The Rams shut DK down, which effectively shut them down.
Shut the whole team down. And they beat him with a quarterback who was throwing with his opposite hand. Just saying.
Wait, did Goff win this one or was it the little guy?
Like, well, Goff had to play a little bit, didn't he? And then the other
Is this
team
the
won.
game he came back? Because I know he came back after something.
He came
Because
back,
the
but
little
then he
dude
had to
got
leave
rocked.
again because he like hit his hand or some shit.
Is that
Anyway,
what it was?
that's our
Yeah.
NFC. Let's move on to the AFC. As we look at it, we're going north, east, south, west once again. So AFC North, the hardest one in the AFC most likely, but I think four makes a lot of sense with the Bengals, unless you see any differently.
Oh, go Burrow. Nope, that's it.
Okay, now it gets kind of tough, but I'm gonna adamantly say the Steelers go at number three.
I can see why you'd say that. I agree. I think to an extent. I don't want them to be third just because I like them probably the most out of these three teams, but I think Rational has to take over. Let's do three.
Yeah, I mean they won the division last year just by one win. I think they regress again this year. Oops, did that wrong. I think they regress a little bit again this year, and the Bengals or the Browns get a little bit better, and then the Ravens just continue to be the Ravens. They're going to have 11, 12 wins. Defense is going to be solid. So I have the Browns going number two, Ravens going number one.
As do I. And I really look forward to a rematch of sorts between those two. And that was it the Thursday night or Monday night game. The
When Lamar
where
shit his pants.
yeah, that was really some fun football though, man. I mean, really, you saw the strengths of each team, of each player. I mean, Lamar did his thing. Baker did some great things on play action, extending a play, some cool throws. I mean, the Browns pounded the rock. Defense had some moves somewhere in there for big plays, but the offenses were still moving the ball. I mean, that was good primetime football as a fan. I mean, X's and O's, it probably wasn't awesome because it ended up being 40 something points each side. But I mean, it was definitely fun to watch, and I'm really excited to see that happen again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do you feel like the Ravens actually have a legitimate chance of winning a Super Bowl, say this year? Because I felt like at this time last year, I thought they were the number three team.
Yeah, I do not. I had them. I thought they were the number five team.
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel like they are the best team at controlling the clock in the NFL, but they get so hamstrung on that because if they don't control the game from the start, they don't catch up well because they're built off this 5, 6, 10 yard rush game.
This
Um,
league is built upon explosion. You look at the teams that we've already projected to be the best. Obviously, the Bucks are the best at it, and you've got the Packers, you've got the Bills. And no, this is in no particular order, but these teams can fuck up and then they can get back pretty quick. The Steelers used to be able to do that on point. Now they've kind of their roster has changed. The Seahawks, they have two explosive receivers. The Rams now have Deshaun Jackson, and they're a team that I used to think, we had the shootout early when you had the Rams Chiefs a couple years ago, but I think since then they have not been as explosive. But now you've got, I mean, it's all about explosion. Even the Cardinals, that's the one thing they've got explosive playmakers, but they're not consistent enough to do it. It's all about the big play ball putting you back in games, which is why I'll give you the point for why I gave you the point in the NFC South about Jameis. If you're going to throw it up, you're going to catch balls. That's why I get excited about the Panthers too. Not to say that they're in the echelon of the previously mentioned teams, but I think that's part of it. The Ravens, they're even their talent. You have Hollywood Brown, and that's the only speed guy. Rashad Bateman's a big dude. Sammy Watkins is getting old. Mark Andrews can catch the ball, but he can't run. They don't have a ton of receiving threats regardless of their scheme. That's why I think the explosivity is down. I mean, yes, Lamar is explosive and electric, but he's a one man band in that regard.
right. I mean, they were what the second or third scoring offense in the AFC. They just do it a little differently than everybody else. So it'll be interesting to see their yards per carry regress like almost a whole yard per carry from the year prior, which
Yep.
isn't crazy because the year prior they destroyed an NFL record for rushing yards in a season. But if it regressed again, now J.K. Dobbins is out and Gus Edwards steps in. Like they just signed Le'Veon Bell, whoop de doo. Um,
But they
that
stay
that'll
up
be
and scoring all those points because, let's be honest, I hate to say this out loud, but there's a lot of soft teams in this league. If you get punched in the mouth, not a lot of guys get up early. The Ravens are built on grit, and that's why they win against these easy teams. I mean, there's more
Oh,
talent
easily.
too on defense. I mean, there's some soft teams in this league, and for that reason, I think that's why they're able to jump out early too on some of these guys.
Well, and they just run a defense. They run an offense that is so different than every other team that they play that it's like hard to game plan against. Like that's their
Right? It's
whole
not
shtick.
something we're
Like,
used to.
and I think that's cool. The Chiefs are built the same way. They
All right, let's jump into the East.
Yeah. Let's go to the East. So Jason, we're heading over to the East. I still think there's a lot of question marks in this division. Mostly because the Dolphins were a big surprise last year, or at least it's a surprise to me. If you were a Dolphins fan, maybe you saw it coming, but the way their defense was able to play when Fitzpatrick was playing, their offense was pretty dynamic. Then Tua comes in and everything halts. Patriots went 8-8 with Cam Newton and nobody else to throw to. Now they decide Mac Jones. Are they a threat to the Bills in this? Jets, I think we can wave them off as the 4, but let's debate the other 3.
Let's debate the other three. I mean, I think the standings in this division mirrored that of last year's. I don't see any team making a huge jump. I thought it was weird. I saw a report showing that right after Cam got cut, said, "Well, Mac Jones was teaching Cam Newton the Patriots playbook." It's like I wondered where that was taken out of context.
Right.
But I do
Well,
like where their defense is going to be this year with a lot of returning guys. I think they got an offensive lineman or two back as well. Um,
I mean, they spent
but I think
$120 million in free agency, Jason.
yes, they did. They're going double tights. You're going to see a lot of 12 purse. I think that's how this offense thrives most. Got a new pass rusher in Judon, another add to that defense again. Um, but I think the Dolphins are still going to be an overall better team. I mean, these aren't your daddy's Patriots. These are gonna. This is an evolving squad.
See, I disagree
First
with
time
you,
they spent
Jason.
money in a while. Really? All right,
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
I think the Dolphins regress mostly because I do not believe in Tua. I think they have great weapons on that offense, and Tua's not the guy to facilitate that offense, at least from what we saw last year. That's all I'm saying. When he came in, he looked scared, he looked hesitant, and he was not willing to throw the ball with like precision downfield, and that's going to hold them back. That's exactly how I feel. And until I see anything differently, I like the way that Mac Jones was stepping up in the pocket in the preseason. I think he's got good enough weapons. Coaching is a huge factor as well. I really like the Patriots to at least go 2 in this division and possibly fight for a playoff spot.
So, what the Tua thing? Do you think it's a confidence thing or just an overall arm strength thing?
It looked like a confidence thing. I remember, I mean, he finished the season with like 9 touchdowns and 7 picks or something. Uh, and really, what I saw is a dude just like looking around the field, not knowing where he's supposed to go. It's not that he doesn't know where to go. I think he's just not. He's not there yet. He hasn't hit that spot where it just feels, or as people say, the game slows down for him. Like the game has not slowed down for Tua yet, and I don't think it is going to anytime soon. I think they're regretting that pick already. To be honest with you.
Possible. I mean, so that's the other thing too about I don't get to watch a ton of Dolphins games, but as an offensive scheme, I can't really haven't looked at a lot, but it's not one where you obviously see, oh, this is what they're trying to do on offense. So with that, I can't really see where he fits anyway. So I see it. I don't think the Patriots are gonna have enough firepower on offense to compete. Obviously, the Dolphins showed they could, but I'm not gonna die on this hill. I don't think the Patriots fight for a playoff push. No, there's too many other good teams here.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's 3 playoff teams in the North last year. That could very well happen again.
Right, that's two of the three wild cards right there.
And then Bills kind of get the number 1 spot. I they went 13-3 last year, Jason. I don't know if they can do that again though. And the reason I say that is like when I watch them play against the Colts in the playoffs,
Yeah.
it it proved to me that they can't win games when they're not like improvising. They won that game off improvisation, and when that falls apart, if you rely on that too often, you can't win that many games. That's what happens when the Chiefs improvisation doesn't work, they lose games. You saw it in the Super Bowl. You've seen it when they played the Raiders earlier that year. When like plays break down and they make big plays, that's when they're dominating, and that's what I felt like the Bills were doing last year. And I don't think they can rely on that again this year. So they're still going to win the division. They're still going to be probably my number 2 seed in the AFC, but I think there's a tiny bit of regression.
Well, what does that look like to you then? Because I think about it, they don't have to go 13-3 this year. They could go 13-4. Do you think they have enough to win 13 games that way, knowing you got the extra game, or you really think it's going to be more of a 11 or a 12 game deal or a 10 game deal?
Yeah, I guess 12. So 12 and 5,
12, so 12 and
lose
5.
two more games.
I mean, that's that. I mean, what does a 12-5 feel like to you? Because 12-4 and 11-5 to me are like dramatically different. Like once you
Oh,
get
they
to that
are.
12, they are right.
Yeah,
But once you get to that
12
12
is
game limit, you've reached the pinnacle for the season. 11 wins is 11 wins. That's a good team, but 12 is like, oh, that's something.
well, that's the crazy thing with this extra game. Like we don't really know.
Right.
Like the Chiefs 14-2 or 14-2 last year. Does 14-3 sound as good? Yeah, I think so. Does 13-4 sound as good? Yeah. 12-5? I don't know. It doesn't have that same flair as those two. So like, yeah, I think it is
Well,
like one step below just by looking at wins and losses. But
right. No, I'm with you there. But I think that game, that extra game, I think is going to make the playoff outlook a lot more clear. I
let's
don't think
do.
you're going to have as many 8-8 teams fighting for it. I think you're going to, or because what the NFC had 3 8-8 teams and the AFC had 3 11-5 teams. Is that right?
That's crazy.
Something like that. I don't think you're going to see that again. I think you'll have a 2 team deal, but I don't think you're going to have a 3 team deal.
The AFC was so balanced
Competitive.
last year and yeah, at the top like Colts, Titans, Browns, Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Dolphins, Bills. 8 teams over 10 wins. 10 wins are over.
Yeah, and that's half of the conference.
That's pretty damn good.
That's crazy. Well,
I
let's take that and talk the other half of the AFC. Let's talk South. What do you think South? Let's start. We got Texans, Colts, Jags, Titans. This one's
um
been ever moving, ever forming, ever evolving the last, call it 4 seasons. You had Luck retire. You got the Watson stuff now. The Jags still suck, but drafted a number 1 guy. The Titans are really the only consistent mover, knowing that they've got a good old line and a couple of dudes. Now they've got Henry. I mean, do we have another thing this year that really changes the entire influx of this division other than Trevor Lawrence?
well, no, not this year. I think as this division progresses 2-3 years down the line, the Titans window closes, the Colts window closes, and then the Jags have an opportunity 2 or 3 years from now. Does does the new quarterback bring a couple more wins? I believe so. Does what's happening with the Texans right now bring them down to like Browns territory, Browns of old territory, and tinkering with 0 wins? Maybe,
That's a tough
maybe.
deal there.
So I think the Texans, just because where they're at right now, and it looks like they just completely tanked. They don't have a quarterback. Cam Newton might be the quarterback by week 4. I think that'd be really smart of them, just to get some publicity, to be honest, because sometimes any publicity is good publicity, right? So
Yeah.
Cam Newton, I'd buy a Texans Cam Newton jersey. Don't get me wrong. And he'd be fun to watch with Brandon Cooks. Not gonna lie. But I'm gonna put them at
Right.
4.
I see that.
I'm gonna put them at 4 just because I really don't think it's not fair to them to put them at 4 and give Jags 3. But I mean, they could both be 2-win teams. Very, very, and well, we could be completely wrong about this. Trevor Lawrence, he looks good. He looks polished. I like their weapons. Um,
I think Jags will get to 5. I'm going Texans, Jags.
you think Jags will get to 5? Dude, that's
Well,
that's the bet in
if they've got
Vegas is.
guys that stop getting hurt,
I think the bet. I think the bet in Vegas is 4 on the
put it on
Jags.
5 just for fun. I haven't done a ton of homework on it. I'm going off a gut here.
I like it. Well, now
but
we need
just
to
new.
talk at the top. I think with when Carson Wentz initially went there and was healthy, I was like, this is the Colts division. That is the quarterback that they needed to be a Super Bowl contender. He gets hurt. Potential for him coming back later in the season, I know, but we're talking about winning division, which is a regular season thing. And I don't know if they can fight with the firepower of the Titans, but the Titans are the only 10-win team to have a defense let up more than 400 points. Like, and
Yeah,
their defense hasn't gotten any better. Their defense is bad, which is funny because their head coach is supposed to be a defensive guy, and they just
Mike
are
Vrabel.
bad. Dude, they don't get any sacks. They don't get any turnovers. It's bad there. But
Right.
their offense is so damn good that it doesn't matter. So I still kind of want to put the Colts at number one here because they can win ugly games. I don't know if the Titans can win ugly games.
Yeah, I'm not in on the Colts this year. I don't think they have enough playmakers. I know Jonathan Taylor's a stud, but I just there's nothing explosive about them. And they're to me, they're like even poorer than the Ravens. If the game doesn't get controlled their way, now granted, this would have been with Phillip Rivers last year, but you've got three, average tight ends, and you got an old Ty and a Michael Pittman who's a possession guy. Are you really relying on your running backs to move the whole offense? You see what that does in Baltimore.
You
You
don't
see
like
what that
Paris
does with the
Campbell?
Niners. Huh?
You don't like Paris Campbell?
I don't like Paris Campbell. I don't like Zach Pascal. Michael Pittman Jr. I like him, but he's not explosive. Ty has definitely lost a step. If they have a fifth receiver, I couldn't tell you what his name is. I just don't think they can hang.
Well, let's put Titans at the top. Of course, we are Nashville Titans fans here at the 53 podcast. And I got to think,
Insert to that, my wife drafted Tannehill and AJ Brown and Derrick Henry, so she is going to be a Nashville fan through and through this year.
yeah, she's smart. She knows what's going on. And I will have to thank Jason in our fantasy league we do together that we drafted earlier this week. I had $2 left to spend on a quarterback. Jason very easily could have taken my quarterback from me, but he gave me Ryan Tannehill, Air Tannehill, to the Super Bowl for Luke's team. I'm super excited about it. So I'm going to roll with the Titans too. And we'll put them
Yeah,
at one.
you're welcome. And for those who were tracking last season, Rage Rage quit by Luke. He dropped Lamar Jackson, so I picked him up. That helped me get further in the league. But also looking at where our draft was, Tannehill would have been my QB2 on the roster, and Luke had yet to draft a quarterback at that time, so he'd been streaming quarterbacks all year. So it just felt like I owed him one. So hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass.
I felt comfortable in my position because Jameis Winston was still out there. So if I had to start the year with Winston as my quarterback, I was going to be okay with it. And then I was going to take like a Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, or somebody just to see what could happen if Winston wasn't going to pan out. Anyway,
Ooh, those are some big balls, my man.
I
Let's go to
know,
the
right?
West.
It would have been ugly. Anyway, let's go to the West. We got a new quarterback starter in Denver. I don't know if that changes your mind at all. Raiders, much of the same. Chargers, second-year quarterback. Herbert's going to be exciting. Chiefs are the Chiefs, man. Let's go to 4. I think it's very easily looking at the Broncos here. Even though I love my man Teddy, but he just doesn't bring enough
I
gusto
don't
to
think
this
it's
team.
so easy, man. I mean, they get Von Miller back, which is great. The Raiders, I don't see the hype there. I wanted to last year. They're both gonna be, 6-win teams this year.
Yeah, I mean,
And go ahead.
well, the nice thing about the Broncos, and yeah, maybe I shouldn't initially put them down there because the Broncos won 5 games last year with, I think, the worst offense. Well, the worst offense out of qualified teams. The Jets were the
They had
worst
a
offense.
practice squad wide receiver having to play quarterback 1 week.
Yeah, exactly. So like they won 5 games with a shitty team. Their two best playmakers on offense were hurt all year. Drew Lock was just confused all year. And now you bring in a signal caller who actually knows what he's doing, can facilitate an offense. Yeah, so maybe they are an 8-win team. Raiders were 8-8 last year. Do they progress? They get a
No,
full stadium in Vegas. Maybe that helps them out. But
it's a
it,
distraction.
it's really hard for me to give anything there for the Raiders. I would like them to get a little better, but their defense sucks too.
Yep.
I like a couple of their playmakers that they have. Max
Crosby.
Crosby is cool. Abram, the safety, is cool, but I think they might regress. So now that we're talking about it, Raiders Broncos are kind of a toss up for me.
They're kind of a toss-up for me. I would give it to the Broncos the edge, just a little bit better defense. And you got to give the potential and hope to Teddy because, I mean, there's offense, a lot of young guys. Christian McCaffrey hurt. He did have 3,000-yard receivers last year. And with the Broncos, you definitely have a chance to do that again with Sutton, Judy, and KJ Hamler if they all stay healthy. So just on paper, a little bit overreaching for a connection there. Kind of a little butthurt about the Raiders last year, even though I need Darren Waller to go ham this year. I don't know. I'm not so much a Gruden guy anymore. At least after last season.
Let's put it this way: the Broncos, Vegas has the Broncos at 8.5 wins. They have the Raiders at 7 wins. 8.5 seems very high for the Broncos. I know they get one extra game. Seems kind of high. I would say the under on there, but with Vegas having the Vegas team have 7 wins, let's just put the Raiders at 4.
Yeah, I wouldn't take 8.5 for the Broncos, but I would definitely take more than the Raiders.
So now we get into 2 and 1. I'm not saying that this is an argument, but I'm going to ask you: do you think the Chargers make it difficult, at least on the Chiefs? Is that even a worry for the Chiefs? I think the Chiefs are just fighting for that bye. Now that there's an extra team in the playoffs, there's only one bye, which I'm adamantly against. I think 2 teams should have byes, but now there's only one bye, and I think it's kind of lined up for the Chiefs to win it this year.
I agree with that. I think the Chargers will make it tough on the Chiefs in that they're head-to-head matchups. I think the Chargers will wake up for these games. You remember the last 2 or 3 seasons, the big thing on the Chargers was they had talented rosters, good sides on good side of each side of the ball, but they were always losing all these close games. They were losing, 5 games under 3 points or in the last minute or these types of things. So now, change of coach. They've upgraded their offensive line significantly. You still got playmakers. Defense gets healthy. I think they're able to close a couple more of those games. They're still young in a couple of regards, so I think they're going to lose a couple too. I think head-to-head they're going to split this year, Chiefs and Chargers. But I think the Chiefs will find a way to continue to be, elite, where the Chargers are going to have some miscues where it's going to affect their rankings through the playoffs. So I think they're probably going to be, the first or second wild card slot this year. But I don't think they're going to push for the division as hard as a lot of people are hyping them up to.
Yeah, well, before we're gonna cut this podcast here after we do our divisions. I'm gonna ask you wild cards in the AFC. NFC is a little more clear how wild cards are gonna shape out. I think AFC is still very much a battle at the top. Do you have teams that you're looking at for wild cards? If you think Chargers are coming in there, who do you think isn't making it that did last year? Is that a Browns, a Steelers, Ravens, Colts, potentially?
Yeah, I do have some teams I'm looking at. Do you want me to go about them now?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think the Colts are the odd man out. Colts or Steelers will be the odd man out there. I think they'll be fighting. I think those two will be fighting for the last wild card spot. The Dolphins won't be what they were.
And you're giving no love to the Patriots.
I'm not giving that kind of love to the Patriots.
That's fair.
I know you are, and usually I have been. I don't quite see it yet. I mean, rookies don't win Super Bowls at quarterback. I just, I don't know. But I think so. I think for my wild cards, you're probably going to take the first wild card spot. Now that I'm looking at it a little more closely, he's going to be out of the North. I think the Chargers will sit there in the second, and I think that third wild card spot will be out of the North as well.
Nice. So, yeah, you're thinking the Colts are going to fall off, which I think is fair. I think, again, if Carson Wentz is playing, that's a completely different story. But I'm cool with that. I think that rounds out our AFC and NFC divisions and our preseason predictions. Jason, last words on that, and then we'll get into our predictions for the season.
Last words on that? Man, I hope I'm wrong. Super Bears, Super Bowl, baby.
See what happens, man. Deuces.
Peace.